Hey, muscles! Anterior muscles of the body. Sternocleidomastoid, lateral flexion, rotation of the neck, deltoid. Anterior flexion, horizontal adduction, medial rotation, and we have abduction, assist. Medial deltoid, shoulder abduction. Posterior deltoid, extension of the shoulder, lateral rotation, horizontal abduction and adduction. Pectoralis major, horizontal adduction and medial rotation. And minor, breathing and positioning of scapula, rectus abdominis, spine flexion, and posterior tilt of the pelvis. Arm muscles, coracobrachialis, flexion of the shoulder, brachialis, flexion of the elbow, biceps brachii, flexion of the elbow, flexion of the shoulder, and supination. Brachioradialis, flexion of the elbow, supination and pronation. Flexors of the wrist and hand, flexion of the wrist. Abdominal muscle, transverse abdominis, constrict abs and stabilize pelvis and torso and assist with breathing. Internal obliques, lateral flexion of the spine, rotation and assist with flexion of the spine. External obliques, V, lateral flexion of the spine, assist with rotation and flexion of the spine. All right, torso muscles, serratus anterior. This is protraction of the shoulder griddle and stabilization of scapula. Intercostal, respiration and diaphragm respiration. Hip muscles, iliopsoas, flexion of the hip and lateral rotation of the hip. Sartorius, flexion of the hip and lateral rotation of the hip. TFL and IT band, abduction of the hip. Leg muscles, quadriceps, rectus femoris, hip flexion and knee extension. Vastus group, vastus medialis, intermedialis, lateralis, knee extension. Hip adductors, here, adduction of the hip, adduct, so bring it together. Tibialis anterior, dorsiflexion and inversion. Posterior muscles of the body, levator scapula, extension of elevation of scapula, lateral flexion, and assist with extension of the neck. Middle trapezius right here, retraction of the shoulder griddle. Upper trapezius here, upper trapezius does elevation of scapula, lateral flexion of the neck, and also rotation of the neck, and also extension of the neck. Lower trapezius does depression of scapula, depression down. All right, rhomboids on the trapezius, retraction and elevation. Mid back, latissimus dorsi does extension, adduction, and medial rotation and assist with abduction of the shoulder. Quadratus lumborum, lateral flexion, lateral tilt of pelvis and spine extension.